You're grabbing breakfast, scrolling your phone when a headline hits like a punch. U.S. economy in freefall, prices skyrocketing, recession looming. It's April 11th, 2025, and the world's spinning out of control. Picture a massive port in Long Beach cranes, frozen. $500 billion in goods stuck because nobody can afford to move them. Why? It all started 9 days ago, April 2nd, when President Trump dropped a tariff nuke, 10% on every import, 145% on anything from China, calling it Liberation Day to save American jobs, but it's backfired, and now we're all in the crossfire. Imagine a Michigan auto worker, Jake, clocking out early. Canada's new 25% tariffs on U.S. cars mean his plant AS orders are tanking China. AS not playing nice either. They slammed 125% tariffs on U.S. goods from wheat to whiskey, killing $145 billion in exports walk through a Nebraska farm, where Sarah S., staring at unsold grain, China was half her market last year, let us step back to see how we got here. Trade has been a global lifeline since the 90s. NAFTA in 1994 made borders invisible for trucks hauling avocados. And engines then 2001, China joins the WTO, and suddenly your local store AS packed with $5 shirts and $200 laptops? It was a win for shoppers, but factories in places like Indiana, they crumbled. $972 billion trade deficit by 2024, $690 billion with China alone. Trump has been raging about this forever. His first term slapped 25% tariffs on Chinese tech, sparking a fight. China crushed U.S. farmers with soybean tariffs. Picture a 2018 D.C. negotiation. Sweaty diplomats failing to calm the storm. Now he's back. Boulder, posting on Truth Social April 7th. China's cheating us. Time to win. But markets didn't cheer. The Dow crashed 200 points. S&P 500 hit its worst day ever at 4.84%, the tax foundation S sounding alarms. These tariffs could slap 1,300 extra on every household. Imagine a dad in Texas, jaw dropped as a 40 blender hits T60, that the tariff tax hitting you where it hurts, but it's not just money. Trust is collapsing. Picture a tense G7 call. Canada's Trudeau pushing back with tariffs, while China's Xi Jinping smiles, knowing Europe's listening to his U.S. is reckless pitch. Mexico's sly, keeping USMCA goods tariff-free, but taxing the rest, pinching U.S. steel global trade's $8.5 trillion a year. 43% flows through the U.S. TRITS. And China, and it has shaking economists like Mark Zandi warn on X. Recession by summer. If this holds, picture a frantic Fed meeting, Jerome Powell eyeing 3% inflation creeping up. So what's this mean for you? Higher bills? Lost jobs? You tell me. Are you braced for the fallout? Don't look away because the retaliation's about to shake the earth. You thought the tariffs were bad. Brace yourself because the retaliation is rewriting the rules of global trade. Picture this. It's April 11th, 2025, and China's just dropped a 125% tariff bomb on U.S. goods, up from 84%, hitting everything from apples to airplanes. This isn't a slap, it's a sledgehammer. Targeting $145 billion in U.S. exports like soybeans and Boeing jets walk through a Kansas farm, where a guy named Mike S. burning crops he can T-sell. China was 60% of his market last year now. Canada's piling on, slapping 25% tariffs on U.S. cars that don't meet USMCA rules. Imagine Detroit's assembly lines, usually roaring, now eerily quiet as orders drop. Ontario's plants can't afford U.S. parts Mexico. They're playing chess, keeping tariff-free trade for USMCA-compliant goods but taxing non-compliant stuff at 25%, squeezing American steel. Why is this happening? It is a chain reaction. Trump asks 145% tariffs on China, 125% plus 20% for fentanyl. Lit the fuse. And nobody is backing down. The numbers are brutal. The tax foundation says this could shave 1.3% off U.S. GDP. That's $300 billion gone. Picture a family in Georgia staring at a $200 grocery bill that was $150 last month. Tariffs are taxes, and you repaying them. But here is the shocker. China's not just fighting back. They're rallying allies. Xi Jinping's on the phone with Europe, calling U.S. tariffs bullying. And Germany's listening. BMW's already hiking prices on U.S.-made SUVs. Markets are a roller coaster. The Dow's down 200 points this week, but Wall Street's wobbling because investors smell a bigger crash. Jamie Dimons on CNBC, warning of a likely recession if this spirals now. Don T. click away. The next twist could change everything. Global ripples are insane. Japan, AS Nikkei, fell 5%, and South Korea's chipmakers are sweating. 40% of their exports hit the U.S. or China. Picture a Shanghai factory. Workers sent home as orders vanish, or a Texas store with empty shelves because Chinese toys cost triple here. Ask the human toll. 2 million. U.S. jobs, think manufacturing, retail, are at risk. Per Moody's, farmers, workers, moms at checkout, they're all asking, who's winning? Nobody, yet stick with me, because the endgame's about to blow your mind. You've seen the chaos, tariffs gutting markets, prices spiking, jobs hanging by a thread, but what if the real game-changer's been hiding in plain sight? It's April 11th, 2025, and as the trade war rages, a bombshell is emerging that could flip everything. Picture this: Canada. Hess quietly inking a deal to send oil to China, bypassing U.S. pipelines entirely. $50 billion in crude that used to flow south now heading east, walk through Alberta, East oil fields, where rigs are humming not for Texas but for Shanghai. Why? Canada's fed up with U.S. tariffs. 25% on their cars pushed Trudeau to pivot, and China's 125% tariffs on U.S. goods opened. The door here is the kicker. Reuters reports Canada's exports to China could jump 30% by 2026, sidelining $100 billion in Utah's U.S. trade. But wait, there's more. Mexico's playing a stealth move, cozying up to Europe with tariff-free USMCA goods while taxing U.S. steel 25%. Picture a Mexico City boardroom, executives toasting as German carmakers shift orders from Ohio to Monterrey. The numbers are staggering. $440 billion in U.S.-China trades at risk, and the tax foundation says tariffs could cost 2 million U.S. jobs. Think retail clerks, factory hands, even truckers. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Whispers on X say Trump's team, led by Howard Lutnick, is floating a secret deal. Pause tariffs for 90 days if China drops theirs first. Imagine a late-night D.C. call. Negotiators sweating, knowing one wrong word could tank the dollar, already wobbling as investors hoard euros. Global markets feel it. Germany's DAX is up 2%, betting on a U.S. stumble, while Japan's exporters brace for a hit, with $75 billion tied to America. What's next? Economists like Susan Collins warn inflation's hitting 3.2%, and Moody's sees a 60% chance of recession by July. Picture empty shelves in Chicago. A mom skipping meals to afford milk, now $6 a gallon. Tariffs don't just raise prices, they reshape power. China's eyeing BRICS. Maybe pricing oil in yuan. $800 billion in U.S. debt could flood markets if they sell. But the human cost hits hardest. Walk into a Pennsylvania diner, where a waitress named Claire E's tips are down 50% because folks can't afford to eat out. She is asking, when does this end? Truth is, nobody knows. Will it be a handshake at the G20 or a meltdown that leaves us all broke? The world's $8.5 trillion trade network hangs in the balance, and 43% of it hinges on what happens next. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Will you pay double for a phone, or will new factories hum in your town? Tell me in the comments. Is this war ending with a deal or a disaster? One thing's sure, you won't forget this moment because the future's being written right now.